Hi friends, and welcome to the second part of my live set breakdown. In this one I want to go with you together into the software part, so show you everything that's going on inside of Ableton Live. If you haven't watched the first part yet, I highly recommend you do so before watching this one, because it's a little bit more hands-on, describes what all the different devices are doing. So yeah, here we are going into the software side of things. So without further ado, let's get into Ableton. All right, so here we are inside of Ableton Live. Just a quick disclaimer that you can get this full project template here on my Patreon without the stems, so it won't be filled with music, but you can use it as a template, as a kind of like blueprint to build your own live sets. Pretty handy, everything is pre-mapped, everything especially going here on the main channel, which I'll walk you through later. So yeah, the link for that is down in the video description. This is how the Ableton project looks like. You might recognize a lot of these groups from the first video that I showed you. For example, if I open this one here, you can see actually there's a lot of different tracks in there, and that is because all the synth tracks of my songs, they live in here. These different tracks. So for example, here we have let me just quickly solo that group. If we just play this one here, you can see these are the ARPs from my song Cluster. So here we have the software synths from my song Ease, and so on. You have that for all the other groups as well. So if we go here to percussion, you can see here all the different percussion groups: Ease percussion, cluster percussions, Tiergarten percussions, and so on. So everything kind of like sorted by song title. Nothing really fancy about the structure. You all know that from the first video. What I wanted to show you is two things. The first thing is a reminder to bounce everything to audio, so you can actually see here that all of these things that I have playing here, all of these clips are audio clips. And the main reason why I do that is because I want to go easy on my CPU, and I had a couple of crashes in the past where I was, especially here on the software synth side, had a lot of instances of different software synthesizers with lots of effects running, and that was just too much for my CPU. So I decided to take it a little bit easier on that one and bounce everything to audio. Since I did that, everything is fine. You can see here my CPU is at around 15, 16, 17%. It goes up when I start a scene. So let me actually just start the scene. It goes up until around 20, but that's still fairly okay, I have to say, and I didn't run into any issues using that. The second thing I wanted to show you is here my sub 25 channel, because this is actually where MIDI data lives. So everything else is audio. This is where I have my MIDI patterns. That's the MIDI pattern from Ease. And yeah, and then you can see here, this is like MIDI data from a track Tiergarten, from the intro, and so on. What's interesting here is actually what's going on effect-wise. So I'm using the external instrument device to run the synth into Ableton. Makes it very easy to connect. Then we also do have here a tuner, so that I can tune the synth. I have some EQing going on here, and then another EQ. And this one is interesting because depending on which preset in which song I am, I think, yeah, this one has another EQ. Yeah, you can see it here. Now that I activated this one here, this clip, this one got deactivated and this EQ got activated, because here I'm using the low end from the Moog, and for these arpeggiated notes I usually don't use it and cut it off, just to have a cleaner mix overall. Yeah, and now if I go back to the scene that we have been on, this one here, and if I start it now, yeah, you can see here that this one gets deactivated and this one gets activated. Just an automation that lives inside of the clip. You can do that actually just to show you here. If you go to envelopes and then just choose any automation you want here, like for example the EQ8 device, you can just switch it off, and then whenever this particular clip here is triggered, the EQ would be switched off, as you can see here. And if I trigger now another one, it's on. and now it's off. Very handy to prepare your live set, so you don't have to think of kind of like the EQing part of your synths while you're playing. It's stuff like that that you prepare beforehand that makes things a little bit easier while you're moving along. And then, apart from that, nothing really fancy, just a glue compressor to catch here some of the notes. Especially if I would now crank up the filter, the synth would get much louder, and I just want the sound a little bit more compressed to keep the dynamic range under control. And then we have a sidechain device here. If I over exaggerate it, you can hear it quite well. And yeah, that's basically it for the Moog. Next, let's take a look to the send effects, because that was actually something that a lot of folks have been asking about when I showed the first video. So you can see here I have a total of 7 different send effects, and they have different colors. So the first 4 are performance effects, and the last 3 are kind of like my general reverb, delay, and chorus effects. So when I used to work in these templates, or when I work in these templates to make songs, actually I use them to give my sounds some reverb, some delay. It's just nice to have that set up, but it's nothing I tweak performance-wise. So these are kind of like set. You can see, for example, here on my sound effects tracks that they have some reverb, some delay on them, and that's just, yeah, to give them some life, you know. Here, the first one is a reverb, nothing fancy, just a standard Ableton reverb, and then some EQing behind that. I really like to do that to make sure that the reverb stays in the range that I want it in to be. Then we have a delay. The delay is interesting because here I'm using a technique that you have also on your Digitone, which is basically you have a delay, and then the delay goes again through the reverb that you also have set up here as your main reverb. So you can see here, this exactly is the same device. It just sits here behind the delay, so that the delayed notes also get some reverb, which is very nice and gives you a little bit of a more dreamy vibe. And the last one is just a chorus, nothing fancy, just at a low rate with a classic setting to give it some stereo field movement. More interesting are the 4 performance effects. So the first one is another reverb. This is my performance reverb, which actually is this one here. So if I turn this one up, you can actually see here, and we will go into the mapping of this, how this works later. If I turn up the reverb here, you can see here these ones are moving, these sends, and this is because they are mapped. So whenever I turn just this knob on, I'm sending kind of like my Moog and Digitone tracks, my synth track and my samples tracks to this particular reverb here, just to give it room, put some sounds a little bit more in the background. It actually works really nice. You can also see it has a quite long decay time of 13.5 seconds. So yeah, there's a lot of room created, which makes this sound very nice. Let me quickly show you. The tail that you're hearing now is the reverb. Next one, we have a delay, which is this one here. Nothing fancy, just a delay with a very high feedback. Obviously dry wet all the way up, because we control it via the send effects here, or the send controls. And yeah, with that I can just send either my drums or my melodic sounds into delay. Let's listen to what it sounds with drums. Really nice for transitions, and then we can do the same for the melodic sounds. Very easy, very straightforward. The next sound we have is a shimmery pad, and this is quite complex. Actually, I think I got this first from some sort of Ableton Live template. Then I took this particular effect out there and added my own stuff, and then it became this pretty long effect chain. So it has a saturator on it. It has a shimmer on it here. So if we go in here, you can see there's a grain delay, also a compressor. It also has a dry chain, and then obviously the grain here is the wet chain, and then it has a reverb behind the grain delay, and then behind this whole effect chain there's another reverb hiding here. So this two reverbs, one a little bit longer for the grains, and then the other one affecting both the dry and the wet signal, and then at the end just some EQing, because I found that especially the low frequencies don't really benefit if they go through this shimmery pad. So I cut this off pretty long effect chain, and it all sounds like this. This is how it sounds on drums. I use it a lot actually in my sets to sometimes give these accents, so I bring it up and very quickly bring it down. Just kind of like some white noise that creates atmosphere. Really, really nice. And then obviously on the melodic sounds, it also sounds really beautiful. Usually I set myself kind of like a threshold at around 40, where I know if I go over this, the mix gets very muddy. So if we listen to this, can hear it in the background. Let's compare it. This is how it sounds without it. And if I now overdo it, it just starts to dominate the mix. So yeah, around 40 is always kind of like a nice sweet spot to have that dialed in. And the last sound literally is my Valhalla Supermassive, my beloved Valhalla Supermassive. Yeah, it's the Billions and Billions presets, which I use on my track Dune, and it sounds just amazing. Let's give it a quick listen. I'll just solo the Moog now, because this one here actually is only affecting the Moog. So you can see when I turn this Moog shimmer, the descent effect here gets turned up, and this is the one that we've been looking at. And if I bring it all the way up, it's a super nice pad. Very long decay, also super lovely for transition. Sounds different than the other shimmer. This one is a little brighter, the other one is a little darker. Two different characters, and I really like to play around with both of them. Okay, sweet. Yeah, that's it about the scent effects. I've already kind of like shown you here how the Performance Rack works. This is literally what I've shown in the first video. Kind of like the view that you've seen on the push is basically this rack here. So what I can do, looper, everything, you can watch all of that in the other video. I want to show you now kind of like what it looks like under the hood. So I now opened the device, and the first thing that we have built in here is the DJ filter, which is this one here. You can probably already hear what's going on there. Let's quickly, actually let's close these here for now and open the DJ filter. So you can see it has a delay, another reverb, and an auto filter, still the legacy one. I haven't updated it yet since the new auto filter came out. And it controls, basically, it switches the device on, and then it controls the filter frequency and the resonance. So watch when I turn this up now, how the filter moves. Resonance goes up, frequency goes up, until we are here. And now I can bring it back down. At the same time, the delay gets activated, the dry wet and the reverb, they go from 0 to 80%, which is the maximum, and then dial it slowly back. As as easy as that. And when you're at 0, the filter also gets deactivated, so you don't have any frequencies being affected by this effect chain. Yeah, very simple, but a very effective performance effect. The next one that we have here is my looper. This one is a little bit more complex. So it has 2 chains. So the first one is a dry chain. So whenever the looper is activated, the dry signal is still going through, which was important for me because I wanted to play my sounds on top of the looped signal. So when I, for example, loop only a melodic section, I can play drums on top of that. So the dry signal is not affected at all. It's just that it goes through. And then we have kind of like the looper chain here, which actually looks like this. The main device here is the beat repeat. This is the one kind of like, looping the signal. So and it starts basically when I activate here this repeat button. So in the moment I bring this one up, you can see immediately the repeat gets activated. Only if it's like a very small value here, the repeat gets activated. And now if I start this phase, for example, and activate the looper, it starts to phase because now both signals are playing on top of each other. And if I now deactivate the input setting, you can see here all the channels are now not playing anymore. All the audio signal that you're hearing right now is coming from this beat repeat because the repeat is on and the section that we've just fed into it is now saved here in the buffer. And now we can start to do different things with it. We can change the looper grid, which is all here coming from the beat repeat. It has a filter here that I've also mapped here, so I can kind of like choose the high frequencies, low frequencies, or kind of like somewhere in the middle. I can make the filter a little bit more narrow. You can actually see it here. Move it around. And now, for example, if I had something like this, I could now start to play other stems on top of it. Just something like that, you know? Yeah, let's open the filter up again, bring the frequency back to normal. Then we have a delay. To completely mess up the signal, it's also a reverb attached here. You can see here when I bring these up, the delay is sitting here. Feedback is not so high, but it's enough to kind of like get this super nice stereo effect, which is why I'm using delay in ping pong mode here. And then as a reverb, I'm using here the large octave shimmer preset. I think I've tweaked the EQ just a little bit to affect not so much the lower frequencies again. And when I bring that in, it creates a long tail. I realized that this tail was very kind of like overlapping for a lot of other frequencies, and if I wanted to bounce to the beat, I needed to add something else. So behind that, there's actually another sidechain shaper. So you can hear the reverb now. You have the sidechaining effect. And this device actually is, let me quickly, the window is too small. I need to close some stuff here to show you what's going on. So in the moment, I'm activating the reverb. I can actually turn off the delay. Also, this one here gets activated. So I'm not only controlling the, this is a good view. So I'm not only controlling the dry wet here of the hybrid reverb. I'm also sending it through this sidechaining device. Now we have this bouncing pad and could, for example, add, I don't know, something else. Filter it a little bit more. And this is then the stuff where you can start to remix your own music live using all of these performance effects, which in case you haven't heard, I just love to do. It's one of the most fun parts of performing live. Yeah, that's basically the looper device. So yeah, a lot of different devices, a lot of different effects. It actually works super nice. The cool thing is I have a snapshot created here, which is called Reset Rack. You now see I have kind of like all of these effects here turned in different ways. If I click now Reset Rack, everything is set back to the default state, which is extremely handy when performing live, because sometimes you might get lost here and think, okay, I've not added too many effects. I need to reset it. This is what this snapshot is for, which also can very easily be controlled from the Ableton push, which is key for my setup because I don't look at this screen. The only screen I'm looking at is the push screen, and I just need to have everything ready there. Sweet, that's the looper. Let's close it now, and then the next effect that we have is actually this fade to gray here, which is this one here. When you open it, you have a delay that has, the more you open it, a very long feedback and a very long and the dry wet obviously all the way open. Then you kind of like reduce your low frequencies completely, reduce your high frequencies completely, that you only have a very small frequency band left. And then here, this one also, I reduced kind of like the gain on the mids slightly, because the more you increase the feedback here, the signal gets louder and louder. So I needed to bring down the overall volume. And now all of these are moving in kind of like at the same speed. I've also set it up that the whole device is by default, when it's set to 0, it's not activated, because I found when this device was activated in the EQ3 here, even though everything was set here kind of like to the default settings, it kind of like changed my sound, and I don't want this performance set to affect my sound at all when it's set to the default state. So this is, yeah, when kind of like the preset, or when I decided to turn off this this preset here and only activate it when this one here moves. All right, let's move on to the last device here in the chain, which is the Performer. The Performer is a Max for Live device, part of the Ableton Performance Pack. And this one here is used, or I use it to basically control what these macro mappings are doing. So you can see here when I turn up the reverb, it controls these 3 sends on 3 devices at the same time. Same here with the delay, it controls it on the drums here, the delay for snare, hi-hat, percussion, and also here my sound effects. Same for shimmer, you can see it here. And the way how I set this up is actually using this Performer device. I can now click here on Open Editor. Let me bring in the window here. These are basically these knobs here. You can kind of like see now, if I turn them, it corresponds here in the screen as well. And if I click on these knobs, you can literally, I need to open the macro editor. Yeah, right, here we are. So if I click on these knobs, you can see they are mapped to different macros. And the way this device works is actually you set up here a new kind of like dial. It's very easy to do. Just say basically whichever thing you want. Let's say here dial large, for example, like this one. I think I've now turned this into a dial large. I want this to be a dial medium. But yeah, this is how you would create kind of like a new device, and then you go into it, open the macro editor here, and then just click on these ones here to configure, and then you can click anywhere in your DAW. Let's just use this one here, just for example, this one. I click it, and now this one here is mapped to the macro, and then I set it up accordingly. So you can see here, these are the delay sends for all of my drum tracks, the 4 that I mentioned. Same here with the melodic delay send. Same here with the shimmer and so on. The Moog shimmer just controls 1, and that is on the Moog group here. So here again, when we bring this one up, can see here this one now corresponds, which is very easy to set up. This is done, by the way, by Ifta. I think he's done an amazing job here, super simple to use and extremely helpful. You can also set up things like I have here on my I'd call these the transition sound effects. So what happens here is actually in the background, there's constantly loops running. So let me actually again open this one. And if we go here into this clip, you can see actually there's a loop running, which we don't hear. And I set this performer up to whenever I just slightly on the master chain tweak this one here, that it gets activated. Sorry, face cam is a little bit in the way. I think this should work. Yeah, you can see here only if I just turn it up slightly, these two get activated. And these are literally on and on switches. And what they are controlling is the on and off here of these two tracks. So if you look and I bring this one up, you can see this one gets enabled. Same here, this one gets enabled. And now when we have the sequence running, should actually, here it comes. Yeah. And this is super nice because then I know after every 8 bars, there's a transition happening. And if I want to make a transition, I've shown that in the first video of this series, then I could perform it super easy and just gets the job done very quickly. And yeah, that's how I use the Performer by IFTA. And that also wraps up the Performance Rack. That's all the controls I have here. Usually I then close kind of like all the stuff here, that I have a very clean view here on the master, which I prefer to have. The second thing I have on my master channel is my mastering rack, which I built myself. I have a full video on that as well. I have it deactivated for now because otherwise the signal would peak at 0 dB, so it would be extremely loud, the whole live setup. So in order to record this this video here, I just left it off. As I said, there's a full video on that rack on my channel here as well. And then the last device I have on here, which I find extremely handy, is Big Time by IFTA. And this one, all it does is whenever you start your live set, you can see it's now at 0 seconds and minutes. And when I start this live set now, it just starts a timer, which is super handy when you're playing live. I used to use actually my smartphone for this because then I kind of like went into the clock of my smartphone and kind of like stopped the clock to know how long I'm actually playing. But when you're on stage, sometimes you forget stuff like that. So it's extremely handy to have something like that that just starts to track your time when you start your performance. Very handy just to keep track of your time and take a close look at your performance time so that you know when you need slowly to come towards the end to wrap up your performance on time. And yeah, that's a quick overview of what's going on inside of Ableton Live when I do my live performance. As I mentioned, this template that you've just seen is available on my Patreon without the stems, but you can just fill it with your own stems, with your own music, and then make it your own and prepare your own live performance. You can either get it as part of the Patreon subscription tiers or as a one-time purchase, whatever you prefer. The link is down in the video description. And with that, I thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this series useful, the breakdown of my live set. If you did, a sub to the channel and a like of the video would be much appreciated. Always let me know what other videos you want to see on the channel. I'm always curious to get new ideas to get you more insights and make you all better live performers and live acts. And with that, thanks a bunch for watching, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.